I think at this stage, it's really safe to say what the end result of Shroonyism is going to be. You are a man, okay? That's what it amounts to. That that's what it means. It doesn't mean you're special or that you're interesting or that you should be allowed into women-only spaces. You are a man, and this has kind of been emphasized a lot online, by simply observing troons, observing their behavior, how they try and throw themselves into spaces they don't belong. And it's commonly thought that, like, even the LGBT community doesn't like them, right? In reality, the entire community is like tearing itself apart and tries to like hide it. But like it's so self-evident, that like they don't even really try and hide that one. Like nobody likes truths. And over the past couple of years, we had this really interesting situation when it comes to like Japanese media and Troons attempting to co-op an iconic character. The femboy arc the femboy character, Bridget from Guilty Gear. I talked about this years and years ago when it first happened. There was a throwaway line in Guilty Gear Strive implying the character was trans now. The creator came out and confirmed it, and ever since then, Bridget's been a trans icon, even though that contradicts his entire history, lore, and like critical aspects of the character, right? Like, if anything, I think this demonstrates very well how Troons cannot win at anything, because they had the creator of this franchise come out and try to pander to them, and what happened? It entirely imploded in spite of like their best efforts at trying to get this to be taken seriously and seeing it to be try to take it to be seen as canon. The reality is Bridget is a man and always will be. Like all truths. Okay, it's kind of amazing how realistic the character is in that regard. But like, real talk. Like, this is like a really good indication of where things are gonna go in the next 5 to 10 years. I think as more and more like people get fed up with troons and their behavior and trying to latch on to like certain characters, right? More and more we're going to see people like celebrate whenever these people take a massive L. And in this specific situation, it seems as if we have. Guilty Gear Strive has gotten a new anime series, and Bridget is pretty explicitly not a troon. They had to walk it back because of the characters like legacy in Japan, because of like we're well aware of that legacy in Japan. They had to sit there and try and do this thing where like, well, we're not gonna say he's trans, like trying to weasel their way out of it basically. But it's not gonna work because trannies are troons are like a very vocal minority. They don't really buy or consume the product at all, right? And it's very overwhelmingly clear where the actual audience like stands on this issue, right? Bridget has a penis. It always has. So this idea, this attempt at co-opting this character has ended in complete and abject failure. And so much so that like I do think this needs to be studied. Like I do think it's safe to say at this stage that like every Japanese creator I know who's gone woke, whether it's like Uchigoshi or that like the Danganronpa guy or like Kojima, like all of them have just fallen flat on their faces and have just like never really produced anything of value. People will make like celebratory tweets like, "Oh man, Sega has like a gay pride parade in Tokyo." Like, first of all, like not even acknowledging the fact that Sega isn't actually a Japanese company and never has been. But like, just sitting there like coping, and seething, trying to be taken seriously. When at this stage, in uh, of our societal collapse, like more and more people are waking up to the fact that yes, lesbians don't exist, gayness is degenerate, like bisexuals are just like looking for attention, and yes, trannies are just delusional, like, motherfuckers who genuinely think they can gaslight people into thinking there's something they're not. Like, and again, like this extends to a lot of other groups of people too. The they, them's, the furries. Like, there's just dozens and dozens of examples of this kind of thing. But like, we're at the point now where the public is becoming more and more aware of what these people are actually like, and learning more and more like why they can't take it seriously. More and more I'm seeing people acknowledge, pedophile homosexual high school teachers. I'm seeing more and more like people acknowledge the reality of lesbian marriages where both parties are getting fucked by men on the regular, right? Like it's just the reality of this situation. And when you observe troons and how they behave in their online community, like seeps of their, little segments of their culture and like what these people's lives are actually like, tend to like seep through the cracks, and it becomes more and more apparent, in spite of all the propaganda saying otherwise, just how pathetic and miserable these people actually are. That is my mindset, looking at this situation. Like these people have spent 3 years acting as if turning a video game character into a troon was somehow some big W for them. These people tried to like act as if Bridget was some like major stepping stone into like uh you know into troon culture becoming mainstream. They did similar things with like Vivian from Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, and like back when they were trying to use Bayonetta as like some gay icon. They've done this before. They have a history of it, and like the more they do it, the more like people begin to push back against it and begin to realize just how out of touch with reality these people actually are. This was a very rare occurrence, a very rare example of a Japanese creator like catering to these people, and almost instantly it's been walked back. I think that shows very strongly where things are going to go in the near future.